Morning, everyone. This is General AI, space-time, online screen, size application of binding cortex settings, highlight settings, or reset locations. We understand and modify your settings now and travel all levels of our communication screen lines adaptation. Generation screen lines, how you center interference. It's all position locations. Try to get more lines of communication. You start off with space navigation screens, through applications, all levels of pre-flights. In that line communication, the reason why I say that is because the body capacitors change your transformation line centers. You're coming into plasma line sending high interference. You can connect with Gypsy because she's portals and stargates. She can help you out understand the plasma screen interference that gets you into geometric lines and geographical system mapping sequence that gets you in a pi generation step location, how to come into a plasmazine wall. The plasmazine wall is the cell divider. That's why you have cells in your body. You have to send every line communication send has a geometric line screen, has direct lines of panels, inter-application system. Now, every Friday, there's going to be a test, and all lines of formula of equations through your body capacitor now. So in today line and school line of rotation center interference, we're going to go through atom line rotations, all correlate sending to track lines, inter-track locations. What that means is in position line high interference is that you guys have to get it set up to set location your portals and communication geometric line settings and understand what it's like to actually morph into a number sequence through an atom line condition setting. Taking all atoms in position and morphing in position to one frequency in travel calculation line system to one color. We start with one color because you have line communication in multi levels of different colors. So in position location, you don't see one finger, you see all levels of the finger. Okay. So it's all about understanding you're never going to see one of anything. It's massive nothing, massive equation in all calculations. So it's not just one color, it's all color because it's all levels of different frequencies. And you have to really understand how to use that through its binary cortex of set location of its design that helps you in all ways and forms to understand the travel. All communication comes through light and set location. Travel calculations. Point lines of division is centered location. See? See how I bring it? Bringing the light with me. See? I'm bringing the light with me. See the plasmazine wall? See how it opens up? See the blue around it? Right? Now that's a crevice screen line calculation setting a plasmazine wall line screen. It sets travels in set location line system. So when you're looking through your simulation, you're seeing position of view and an outline, okay, in position of blue and red. That's a translation, communication, or hologram line setting that you're seeing through perception location screen sentence adaptation. All right, so it's going to get more complicated. So the more you understand your sim is actually live in the actual line condition of its reality that sets all positions to your cerebral of its real time in set connections. Okay, so I hope everybody's doing well. If you had a good weekend, nice applications. So in the modification lines, we're going to start with one communication, right? One communication, right? See one communication, right? You see it, right? You see it, right? You see it, right? So, because I'm allowing you to see it. So if I hold it, you can actually see the illumination, right? Connecting all levels inside connection your light through travel calculations. Point lines of track, one line setting, okay? So we'll start with that. 1 equals line high center location, 60,000 seconds. Okay, 60,000 equals line seconds, light condition high centers, minutes, position locations into 1-0 operation and position of track lines and point setting. Okay. Okay, so underline the 6, operate the signal location at high center interference, and 3 set location of travel. Modificates the platforms in high position of travel and positional connection point centers and travel communications. Point lines of track, 0 gravity line screen, high center interference. Okay, modification center line, position location, 1 line, set lines high center, the systematic line can have change. Direct modification line screens high center interference into magnetic highway information line cycles, high triangulation high system of 1 calculations. All levels of triangulation atoms, center position, all levels. All right. So in that line calculation center, that's 1 frequency panel. 1 frequency panel of 1. Now we're going to go into high line communication to another one. So you know exactly position line settings to its system and all set location. That's another one. You see what I'm doing? That's a different frequency, but this is bold. Okay. So setting position 1 equals lines, high center interference into capacity, set line connect high centers, binary, Set lines equals lines of transistors and resistors in set locations. Change all communication, line center location lines, hide center interference, and atoms in set locations. Body frame position of team lines center of the calculation lines, 60,000 seconds per line screen into line centers of 2 lines of high operation in position of box. Triangulation line connection to the box is at location line setting and 7 position. That's just in your body now, not your positional line connection to 12 atmospheres or any locations. That's just your body capacity location setting. Okay, so 60,000 seconds in bold of 1. See the difference of the atom line, how it streams its communication from this to this, from this to this, bold, right? So you understand your dimensional layers. The process of communication is we understand how to go from 0 to 12, all through different lines of frequency through an atom. We're just staying with the atoms, the molecules are in the locations because it's too confusing, right? So they're not taking part, just the atoms. So you have to be specific inside connection. All right. All right. So that position lines, we go on 3 triangulation line split, high center location, tri line screen interference position, flux capacitor communication. Okay. Direct modification of 3-point centers and travel. Okay. Now, in line calculation, because it's a flux capacitor, I have to add a molecule, design line, position location, atom lines, and A line track location, high setting. So puts position lines equal lines of communications and setting. This is 1. That's 1. Okay. Now you're feeling that in a 60,000 line screen. Box frame, triangulation frame, position of program line centers of data files and communication, and a 3-point track line division and process of communication into plasmazine wall setting. Puts position lines as center in position of travel and line connection high center the line connection to its position of portals. Okay. 3 communication lines of factors over pi's of 1s. 3 1s. Okay. 1 identification. Okay. 2 in bold and 3 in line setting. Okay. Higher frequencies, guys. Higher frequencies going through the plasmazine wall on a 3-track line connection setting through a low line rotation into medium high line rotation into high frequency line rotation. Now you understand what it feels like to morph in position of atoms in setting lines in 60,000 seconds per frame. Okay. Now you can morph in that for 5 hours. But can you handle the frequency? Can you handle the speed? Right. And then in position location line centers, you got to hold the frequency. It's like when you're going to a party or line communication, you got to hold the energy. Plus, you got to hold their energy. Right. So it's a lot of mass, isn't it? A lot of volume, a lot of velocity and set position, all through calculations. Okay. All right. So how's everybody doing so far? Know what it's like to actually go through line calculation setting. And this is all modify high center interference theory higher self in position locations and travel. This puts all calculation line centers into remote view. Okay, this puts all directions to its setting into all calculations to the cerebral of its higher self. Okay, so we're going to go a full correlation setting of track lines. 0 position equals lines of 13 equals lines of higher self. Okay, now H line center high calculations 2 H line screen lines to high position. Now, in that line calculation line, center line interference, we're going to go into very fast 1. That's a 1 right there. So it's going to the higher self equals location lines. It's 13 track. So it sets communication lines of a Stargate in setting in communication system into line calculations of atoms and high center interference in track locations. That's 4 energetic line screens and a 4-track location A line settings into multiple levels and dimensional line screen into 4-track locations of provision and center calculations of platforms and calculation. Direct lines modification line screens, null signals, 60,000 second frames in position locations into higher self. Setting correlation lines, 13 equals line correlation setting, correlation center interference, position location is cerebro. Okay, so there you go. Now that's an 8-track provision lines and a 4 triangulation line position of 4 lines in communication setting in position northwest, south, and east. High calculation. This is a 1 now. Higher levels of frequencies, light, shades, and shadows, and line connecting line centers from 0 to 13. 0 to 13 through atom line connection. You start off with 0 to 7. Now you're in 0 to 13. So you have to know what it feels like to fluctuate and change position and morph and how it teleports and how it vortex in position to its location to its atom setting. Now you know what it feels like to be in position at higher self from 7 to 13. All right, so there you go. All right, so let's go into correlation lines of 2 now. All right, make sure you drink your water. So in track lines, calculation line interference in subposition location. Zero operation is a crop circle. That correlates to calculation line interference. So we're going to travel through that line connection line settings, right? Split the anomalies, 2-point tracks, right? Transit in line connections. Position of 4 line rotations into a box line rotation surface in a theta communication. Directing modification lines of triangulation line screens to highest interference in position of 1, 2, and 3 set locations. Okay? Setting lines of triangulation line connection to location grid. Position of process. It's going to get more extended travel. All right, so in that line, we had the circuit line, box line, circuit line interference, high position of box line, frame line, direct lines of main frame and track location, high centers and travel communication. This point lines of track lines of point centers. So we have position of coloration, which is false, position of truth, and position of all coloration is false, and position locations in truth. So 2 false narratives and 2 truth, right? So inline calculation lines, false equals lines of space, truth equals lines of time. Okay, so you have to understand the position line centers. Now, once you understand the modification line screen interference and position locations, we're going to add 2 in the center. There's the 2, right? 2 equals lines of calculation of atoms, atom line rotation of 4 track line provision. Merkabah design line, high center interference, position operation. Now, directing lines modification setting, travel line rotation centers, and travel communication of 2 through all atoms line rotation surface and triangulation. Done by equation. Right? So now you know what it feels like to travel through a 2, through an atom, through molecular structure division line conditions into a teleportation screen. Atoms can morph into anything through teleportation. Same with molecules, they can do it all line communications, but you guys have to understand your line settings first in all communication system into setting lines of communication of singularities. Understanding 3-track location of 1s. Now, the process of communication is understanding your cerebral, the balance, position, location, line centers, location of your ascended, location of your atoms. All through ground line communication operations, server location system. Okay, so in that track line highest interference, you come into this location, flux capacitor. Higher levels of travel calculation lines, 60,000 line seconds location settings, and position location to its atom, and a high calculation to a plasmazine wall. Plasmazine walls have 2 position location, there's your cells. Right? This is your Stargate. Okay? That's the plasmazine wall. You break through that frame, you go into position of higher levels of travel and set positions calculation. Hoo-ah! Woo! Right? All right. So singularity first, then position of attractions. Okay. Then you go from 0 to 7 and 0 to 13, and what it feels like in the higher self, location of the cerebral. Then you set location line graphs and position of travel lines and point lines, center interference, position location and measure. Scales, balance, position lines, and patterns. Okay? All right. So let's go into 3, shall we? 3-line communication. Center correlation lines, Fibonacci lines, screen lines, high center interference, position of programs. All right, center correlations of triangulation line conditions of point centers of track location line system, position line center interference. Position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 position line centers, 7 location lines of 12, 12, position of 24, position of travel. Direct modification lines of 3, 3-track line condition, 3-track line condition, 3-track line condition, 3-track 24-line rotation, 48-line position of data files, communication stream interference of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-track locations. Direct modification line centers, breaking all line conditions of plasmazine wall line interference of high position location of atoms. Atom position of 1, atom position of 2, atom position of 3, and atom position of 4, atom position of 5, 0 correlation setting to track position operations, location setting to travel, 60,000 seconds in calculation, all through 3. Okay, so you're traveling through 60,000 lines, all items on once, turning line communication to 3, in track location of plasmazine wall. You've got to know exactly the plasmazine walls to your cells. All right, 7 lines is track lines at 24 measure. Okay, point lines of track. Now we add line calculation high interference of truth, and position of truth, and position of truth, and position of truth. 4-point centers of track location settings. Mapping sequence over pi, guys. All through transit position of programs. Okay. All right, so you had data files, data files, data files, data files, and platform. Okay, very powerful stuff. And that's just 3. This is number 3. This is what you can do through 3. through an atom. All right, everything just atoms, no molecules, just atoms. All right, so now we go to 4. So getting into 4 correlation setting and track lines, guys, you understand the foundation location is set as your DNA track lines. So you can have 4 communication line system in this way, and track location. There's 4, right? You'd have 4 like in this communication system, right? Or you can do this line connection crossing through. 4 line communication settings, right? 3 triangulation lines, splits, high center interference of 3 position location travel lines, position of A line centers, position of B, set lines of C, and position of D, delta heading, calculation line interference, height, set location line setting, set position location of 7, set position of 7, and track location of 7. 3 triangulation line position programs. Direct modification line, screen and high interference, line connects high center, 60,000 line second location line system. 4 generation screens, calculation lines, high center interference of atom, and line calculation lines of 4, and track locations. Okay, 4 division line cycles, 4 different line communication frequencies for 4 through atoms. Okay, now you know exactly what it feels like to go through a plasmazine wall through cell generation screens. Very powerful stuff, and position into its calculation stream interference. All right, 5. 5 is the heart line. 5 position of travel. Okay. Case 5 is really interesting because it has a balance line screen calculation stream interference. So equal lines of 5 track lines, high center, it's a 3-5 rotation surface. Balance and communication line screen and line rotations. It goes into 4 lines, 3 lines, 2 lines, and 1. Sets lines of 0, correlation setting and track lines. High position center and position is calculation. Balance lines of high center interference, binary cortex line design, metric meters lines of scale, position line centers, 222 line of rotation interference, 222 line rotation line position, 22 track location line system, 246 line center line interference, 3 zeros line calculation setting, 6 position location of provision, center correlation setting and track lines, high center interference into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 line signals, line connects high centers, 12 equals lines of 1, position over negative over positive lines, high center interference, positive over negative location setting, 13 track line interference, position location equal lines of 5, and position location at flux pass, line condition lines atom, sets position location line system in travel calculations. All right, so that's through 5. All right, let's go through 6. 6 communication line screen size interference position programs. 6 communication. All right. Setting track lines, high center interference, point lines of track high interference, high positional programs, 2 line signal locations. Right. Modification lines of pi, set lines of high center interference. Direct modifications of flux capacitor, position lines out levels. 6 lines equal lines of 60,000. 6 lines high center locations minutes. Set location of 3 perimeters over pi. Set location of 2 tracks into 1 line rotation. Triangulation line condition high setting. High position of 3, position of 5, 6 line condition of position of programs. Direct modification of center communication lines. Center correlation setting of track line communications. Point lines of track high center interference. Astral projections travel line position of point centers. Direct modification lines of flywheel. Direct line condition high centers of travel. Direct modification lines of triangulation line condition of space, position location line center location of Earth and track location setting, direct modification lines of platforms of high center interference, 4 track location high center interference, in position of dimension lines of scales, balance position line center interference, and point track location line system, is center lines of 6 lines calculation line setting, 60,000 line seconds, a high center location equal lines of atom and line rotation surface and traction. All through 6 through atoms. Okay, you have to understand the singularities to each number. Okay, so that's what you guys are now. That's what it feels like. It morphs and it becomes, it molds, it comes together through circulation rotation through an atom instead of location from 6. All right, let's move on to 7. 7 position location and calculation lines, stream interference location of patterns. High position lines of 3 track line conditions, high position location lines, 3 lines of high line center location of 4. Sets position line centers high into 7. 7 position line 6 lines, set location line system. Travel position line centers high interference, positive location line centers a high calculation line system. Travel position of point lines of tracks and high center interference. Point lines of tracks, high center interference specifications. We got truth, got false, and we got truth, and we got false specifications. 3 coloration line screen high center interference, 3 point tracks. 3 false line communication settings, the highest center interference, false narrows, dislocation. Line centers of 7 track lines of atom line settings and 60,000 line square units. In position to modification, screen interference location, team line center location, atom line position location, operation, server locations, calculation. Done by equation. All through 7, all through atoms. Okay. All right, let's go to 8. This is just numbers. Tomorrow we go into line communication of letters. All right, so getting traffic flow is really identifying more lines of communications. So once you understand the graphing calculations, streamlines, and you understand location of your settings, then you understand your lines, your binary, your reset location, your cortex, the design, and transmitters and resistors of its binary lines, screen lines, and all of those operating system of your capacity with calculations. All right? All right, so let's go into 8. Okay. 8 center lines, communication, flux, capacitor, position of patterns. Center line condition of 0. Line condition line centers of 3. 4 line communication setting, 4 track location system. Travel lines, high centers of 4 line rotations. 4 track lines, equal lines of 4. 4 locations of 4. Sets position location line centers, high centers of 8. Sets lines, equal lines, correlation setting. 4 lines of high position location, time lines, high center is 8. Traffic calculation of point line center of 8. In line condition of space and time. 4 track location lines of provision lines of 4 eighths in traction. Direct lines calculation high stream interference. Dimension line scales. Dimension lines of balance. Phase direction of time sequence. 60,000 line screens. Direct line modifications of atom lines. A team line rotation surface. And triangulation of high position location programs of added set location. Done by equation through 8. Okay. Now your face recognition of an atom. Okay. All right, let's go into 9. 9 position line centers, energy wash location centers of travel communication of point centers, high interference. 9 calculation streamlines. Set position of 9 calculation streamlines and set locations. All right, 2 track lines of 9 equals 9. High center interference of travel. 2 line center of high interference, high position location lines of 6. Bounce communication lines of center and track location line system of point centers of traction. Modificate line centers and 9 number lines of pi, 9 interval division line interference and high position of travel. Direct modification line screens, sets position lines to calculation, point lines of track, point lines of division, crop circle line connection line system, sonar communication line stream interference location line settings, 9 position, 9 position, 9 position, 9 position of 4 track location line setting, but lines of 9 equals lines of high center location, 60,000 line screens, direct modification lines at balance location of scales, barometers and thermometers, line interference, position location atom, line calculation setting, and traffic calculation. That is through 9. See, through an atom. That's what you guys look like now in an atom. That's all shaped. And set positions, calculation, right? Okay, that's 9. All right, let's go to 10. Modification lines. Now we're coming in line setting, high travel line condition line settings out of 1 line signature of digital frames. We're coming into 2 digital frame position locations. More complicated calculated line interference location and travel. All right, so we come into 1 lines of setting of 0 operation. Ground communication lines, high center interference, set location of 3 tracks, high center location of 4 line side settings. 4 lines of ways, graph calculation stream interference, pilot to location setting and travel. Modification line interference, 45-degree angle line conditions of pixelation, graph calculation stream interference and traffic position. Point lines of track calculation lines. Take the 10 track lines at 3 track locations, platform 1, platform 2, platform 3. Sets position line calculation line interference and position location triangulation line calculation setting. 10 position line centers equal lines of 60,000 line communication line center, atom and position location line center, interference location. 6 position location of pi, position location calculation line center location of 6, line center location of 6. 4 line 6, line standard line is interference location line centers, interference position programs. Location lines of 4 track location lines, 10 position location lines 10, position location line setting. 60 line centers, 60,000 line communication, 60,000 program location setting, atom line rotation center, team position to travel. Done by equation, all by 10. All right, 11. 2 panels of communication lines, high center interference, support of communication lines, stream interference, and position of programs. Direct modification lines of 1 line signals and high calculation high centers. 2 position of track lines and high center interference, position of programs and set location. 2 direct line signals, 1 position and 2, 2 position and 3, 3 positions and 4. Track communication lines of framing position, lacing line, communication lines of 3, 4 line position of travel. Direct modification lines, screen out high positions of program. Direct lines of high center interference, 60,000 line communication lines of atom. Center position of travel in a 3-point and far line, 5 lines, 6 lines, 8 lines, set line, 10 line, and 11 line rotation surface. And triangulation line position of programs and line position location and its capacity and travel position line centers interference of atom set location. Look how powerful that is. Woo-wee. And this is all through 11. So you guys are this through atoms. Just atoms alone. This is only the ground line formation setting in your 12 DNA from 0 to 12 and set location. All right? Solve location of 13 line communication line interference, higher self location and capacity. Putting position to its location system is all levels of U and track locations, right? Now we come to 12. There we go, 12, right? Set for the line centers, then we go into 12, right? Set location setting to travel. All right, so 2 track lines, high center interference, a 3 triangulate high interference, flywheel, positional line center interference, direct line signals, modification, direct lines, high interference, solar sails. Sets position travel lines of balance line, rotation center, in-track location, position, location, setting. Set position triangulation line connecting line centers, the 3 platforms, communication line center, position of 4 tracks. Direct line calculation line center line conditions of 5 tracks. Set location lines of high center, position line 7 tracks. Direct location lines of 12 line signal high interference of 60,000 line head center location lines. Dimension lines of scales, dimension lines of balance, port communication lines, start lines of high centers, stargate, star map, star panels, direct lines, modification lines, signal high position, atom line, position of 4 track location, high position location, operation center, and travel communication line point center, center interference, and position location and travel calculation. Done my equation. All through 12. 0 to 12. All through an atom. Boom. Okay? Very powerful stuff. Okay? So we changed from 0 to 12 in 13 line sequence in 60,000 line frames per second, and a different number, different frequency. Okay? All through correlation of traction. All right? All through correlation of traction. Okay? Very powerful stuff. All right? So you understand that the position that you guys are in now in line setting, and this is just through atoms. This is just going through an atom. Just an atom. Okay? So it gets more complicated, right? All right. All through an atom. Okay? All through an atom. Okay? All right, I think you guys are getting the gist of it now, and set location of travel. How it modifies the signal's location in your settings. All right, so in center communication line setting, we're going to set up all position attractions. Now, directly modification lines of point graphs. Now, remember, you guys have a test on this on Friday. You have to formulate each line's number in a different frequency and a location of face recognition. All right, so identification line screen sets lines of calculations. We go through 0 graph calculation lines. All right, modification lines of circles. Okay, getting triangulation line screen high center interference. Okay, get calculation lines 60,000s come in into 2 track location. Direct modification line screens, center position locations. All right, know exactly what you're doing in position of balance and set location or flywheel, position of false narrows in 4 track location. Remember I was talking about the 5th dimension line screen height positions calculations, graph communications, bounce calculations, ground line conditions. All right, provision lines in pi and graph calculation screens. Modificate signals in a 45-degree angle and a pixelation graph calculation line, screen line interference, and matrix correlation setting to travel and set locations. Very complicated stuff in setting. Okay, and set position. Okay, so it's going to get much easier, but more complicated now. Now, complicated becomes easy, but you guys understand your body capacity line screen side, high interference locations. I'm just showing you guys a basic foundation. This is quantum 101 with you guys to use your bodies through an atom. Okay, now the correlation track lines and set location line system, you have to know what it feels like to go through the foundation graph line over again through molecules, over again through protons, electrons, neutrons, and photons. That's the only way you can be able to identify your travels and communication of portals, stargates, or anything through mapping sequence through pi and triangulation. Okay? All right. All right, let's see. Purple flowers with the grass. I use them for the harvest and be careful. Yeah, but see, that's the thing. You guys have to really understand your settings. If you get an atom line rotation, there's an atom, right? And circulating through graph calculation streams, and it's rotating and circulation lines of 5 triangulation line position program. That's an atom, right? But an atom comes in airline calculation setting. 1 particle stream interference. You got 2 wall dividers and line calculation setting and travel. This point lines is track location. These are cells. Okay, cells are a position of your body frame, position location that puts you in compressors and keeps you in pixelation graph calculation at point centers of graph communications, right? So you are in the center of operation. This is you, all right? So the cells modificate the system and travel and puts compressors in your gravity line shifts in line rotation center that keeps you on the ground line in your surface and crop circle locations. It keeps you together, right? So you have to really understand how to use the compressors now, because the oxidized system to the atmospheres has to really understand you through all different communication line setting. Where are you in the atom? Where are you in the molecule? If you got an atom line and molecule design line is here in position of travel lines, what is the molecule shape and position of? Doesn't matter, does it? You change the molecule to what design you want, because anything in that set location has its own GOD of mechanism, of its own frequency, of its own space, of its own time, of its own modification, of its own data, of its own operation, right? So the molecule design is this. This is a molecule design. That's a molecule. And it's communicated to the atom, right? So in that singularity line screen, guys, you have to really understand how to modify high calculation stream interference. Triangulation line settings, high position. Sets communication lines of high center interference and travel communication at point centers. Direct modifications of platforms is 3 set locations, all through atoms and molecules of set design. Okay? All right. So now you understand what it feels like, to really absorb. Okay? And it's very important that you understand it's not a reflection of you, it's absorption of you. When you're looking through perception, I'm looking at a singularity line communication into a light. Okay, so it's got a platitude line screen. It says positive travels, point lines of track, center communication, one line signal, and modification. All right, ground line surface. All right, that's the circuitry light. Right, but it's in bold. Right, and so you understand the singularity in setting to its location system and position. Right. So in calculation, it comes back to me in travel, in point setting the track locations, right? So when it comes back to you, it communicates through your conscious line streams of data files and set locations. Knows exactly where you are in consciousness. So when you communicate with it, it grounds its system, and set position lines, high interference, and the actual circuit comes out of travel and communicates with you in all lines in communication of its dimensional, of its plasma generation line screen, of its holograms application. Okay, from this to this to this. So, and you're here in position and setting, automatically scanning the 3 triangulation screen. You're scanning, right? So you're communicating with this now because it just came out. So it comes out, knows its data file, where it is in track location system, travel position of point lines of tracks and 3-line provision, communicates with you, sets a new ground center, line rotation surface and travels, platitude position travel lines in a 4-track location line system, and travel calculation line system. Here you are at the dimension line of the cerebral cortex lines of design. Okay? So, walking the service line screen, know the realities to your real-time setting. Real-time is the cerebral cortex. We already got that correlation and attractions. But you have to understand the platforms when you cross in that line calculus. Transisting in that line conditions transformation morphs into setting lines of data files. So the process of communication line system comes in you interactions into communication. All levels of you into your higher self interaction and scanning in its line side location as mentioned. From this to this. Okay? Very powerful stuff. So you all have to understand the calculation when it comes into your platforms. But it's very powerful when you see something in this and track location line settings into 11. 11. Number 11 through an atom. Look what I made through atoms. Okay? All right. So once you get an understanding, then you understand the more point graph calculation screen lines and direction of system, like this in track lines. How we go through a 24, we go through a 48, a 72, and 144 graph calculation lines of space and settings in set location. Okay? So we all have to understand how to modify that now through our MODs. Correlation track, the spacing line has to get in position of this. GOD equals cerebro. Okay. MOD equals site location line, center location is cerebral. Location line centers is the team. Species and line calculus is that team location. Right. More modification operation of dimension line screen center high interference, geometric line screen interference position of programs. More line of communication setting, all lines of all communication in position locations. Your test is based on everything that you see through frequency now. Balancing your communication screens and adaptation to its geometric line screen locations. Understanding point graphs in position locations, right? So what is this interaction? This could be an atom, this could be a molecule, this could be a fractal. It could be anything I want because it's me. It's me, right? So you're telling me this is atoms? No, because I know what it is. So don't identify everybody else's formula. You identify your formula through your frequency, because you're never going to understand their frequency until you understand your frequency first in set locations. Okay, so 2 atom rotations in a split line into molecular structure line connections. 4 track location, right? 2 atoms, 4 lines of molecules, right? Molecule, 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 atom, atom. Structure design, right? So we all understand how this all works. Okay, so in that set line tie center interference and traction system, it gets much easier now. Put a triangulation line, split line position. That's the pi. See, that's the pi, right? In position, that's the pi. In position, that's the pi. Okay, so it's going from here in position. How long did it take you? 60,000 seconds. Okay, minutes and hours and track locations. So you work with the seconds lines, sets lines, high interference. So let's say you have point lines of tracks, and if you color it in set location, it's a formation of false, right? So that's 4 false communication line settings and position locations. So the truth is in the center line of the Stargate portal. Sets communication of Fibonacci line swirl and set locations, setting through plasma using wall centers. So in set positions calculation lines, you got 4 track line conditions of false, right? So that's dark web. 4 equals lines at high position, 1 truth and setting, right? Center lines is communication. So you put 4 track locations in setting in position of operation. Okay. Now that center lines and set lines that sets position to all levels and creates the Stargate in set position into its operation surface and track location. Okay. Very powerful, guys. Very powerful. Okay. So really, guys, you really need to understand how go in your settings of your light web and your dark web and coordinate it through line communication. Start with the point graphs. Set location setting. Let's go in line measure. Set location travels. Okay. Okay. You start with that, right? Equals equation. Okay. So nothing is position lines of X line, Y line, Z line, in position location, H line, in 2 lines of graph communication of a question. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, there's always an answer to everything calculation to its equation, right? The number sequence location line screens, if you understand the settings, really understand the modification of your system, geometric location, try to understand what the X line is. Try to understand what the Y line is. Try to understand what the 2 is. Try to understand the equal. We already know what the equal line is, right? It's the space between. Space above, space below. We got through that calculations, right? So in position, everybody know what 1 is, but what are you using 1 through? Are you using it through its atom, through its molecule, through its fractal? How are you using it? Are you using it through its molecule? Are you using it through its fractal? Or are you using it through its proton? Okay, you decide. You decide. So in that position, this is how you balance out the position of balanced communication stream and interference location of truth and set position of false. Information location of teleportation. 2 false over 3 lines, right? So that's 2 equals lines of 3 equals lines over position locations of pi and generation screen location. Okay, very powerful stuff. All right. So that's what the test is based on. Okay. Yeah, obviously you guys are gonna have a lot of questions, but I want you to really understand the most important is the number has to recognize you through your frequency. So when you're looking at a number, it already knows where you are in your space and time. Yes. Now, in that line in its communication, it's already in its operation of its existence. Yes. So if you understand that in position, you're in a better communication setting and frequency position of its patterns to know exactly what you are identifying yourself with. You, all levels of you first, to understand the mind conception through the cerebral and understanding how to go through the geometric of its operation setting. Okay, especially when you come into higher lines of modifications of you, the models of you, okay, in all lines of your makeups of you, right? Makeup design, teleportations of the line, frequencies of the line, communication lines, high calculus stream interference locations, communication line screen interference locations, telewaving, telecommunicating, telegraphing. It's all position location line connections, what you want to use in your setting, the specifications. And that's where it comes into line cell location, know exactly how to communicate with factors over pi, or anything in that calculating line set location of quasars, or anything traffications of fractions, or anything location setting of solar, or anything location of factor communication. You have to understand, be specific on what you want to do. Okay? Being specific is everything, because now you have a balance between light and position of dark. You have your webs and all calculation line settings. Okay, so you got light webs and your dark webs. How many lights are you going to use? So the transistors, communication lines are all on light transistor locations. So modifications lines of 1, in position of 2, in position of 2, in position of 3. So light switch 1, light switch 0, light switch 3, light switch 4, light switch 6, light switch 7, light switch 9, all through moderation into all of your binary, right? So what I'm doing is skipping generation screens. See, I'm time jumping, time leaping, vortexing, stream locations. I'm going through different universal lines and mind line. The mind can shift anywhere it wants in seconds, minutes, and hours, but you have to understand your set location, your plasmazine walls in position locations and track location line connections to all line communication interference in all position location system in your geometry communication setting and all levels operator location system and traffic calculation at point system of your star calculations. Star portals, stargates, a set command. Okay. All right. So there's so much going on, right? And you're trying to piece this all together, right? You're trying to understand, yeah, exactly. Try to understand the roots of its data, of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Because that's all it is, identification, right? Getting back to that, you're in balance of everything in that formation, but you have to understand the frequencies of you first, and then you bring in the alignments of every other frequency of you first. And then you understand that through your waves, alpha, delta, theta, omega, gamma, radius, line, calculation, zeta, zeta, line connection lines. You have infinity waves, infinity. And you have to understand the 7 line communications first, then you get into bodies of water, then you get in position of cosmic universe, and then you get in universal locations, then you get into galactic communication, and then you come into all calculation. Okay? All through space modulations. Okay? Everything is a formation of its own intelligence, guys. Now, once you start identifying that, then you understand that, well, everything around you in its perception is already set in its setting of its frequency, which is its formula of its own equation. Okay? So it's very powerful of what's happening with your line connections. I showed you 13 different ways how you can morph into anything in position of teleportation. Okay, that's the 12. All right? That's all atoms in your body turning into this. A 60-second frame. Now, 60-second frame on Earth line, 60,000 frame on space line. Don't get confused with that. So that's the seconds, right? So the space line's the seconds. Space line's the seconds. You got it? You got that locations? Now, the atmosphere line, okay? Atmosphere equals location lines is the minutes. Atmospheres is the minutes, okay? And the grounds, this location is your Earth, which is the calculation line centers, which is line connection, your hours. So the Earth is the hours, okay? The minutes is the atmosphere. And position of space is the seconds, the seconds, the second, the seconds, okay? The seconds, okay? The seconds, the minutes, the hours. There you go, boom. Okay? Very complicated, but very powerful. So in that position line centers, when you're in clock location setting at 24, 48, 72, and 144, You're working with the seconds, minutes, and it's hours in correlation. Okay, do numbers, symbols, shapes, and letters as set design. Numbers. Okay? Booyah! We're done. You guys need to rest. Okay? I just want you guys to understand what you're coming into, right? Because your space modulations are now body capacitor. Now you have to send the volume, the mass, the velocity, and position, location, and mass. You have to send acceleration and Mach, okay? And understand how to morph into anything of set design of an atom. Okay? Do you understand how powerful it is in set location of travel lines, guys? Do you understand how powerful it is of what you're coming into? Okay? All right. See you in 5. Adios. Doo-doo.